February 24th, 2026. The cold sigh of the city runs through my body as I try to smoke the last cigarette I have left. No, it's not that I'm going to quit, it's just that money has been a problem lately, and we have to save up to buy ink for that printer.
Which ironically costs almost as much as buying a new printer. So I guess goodbye, benefits and dental plan.
Didn't I tell you not to interrupt my inner monologue?
Remember that you're our inner monologue?
That smells like communism to me.
Besides, why do you care about cigarettes? Everyone knows you like to look cool. Just about to light them. But has anyone actually seen this guy smoke?
Let's just get straight to today's case. What do we have, young man? Concerned Uy.
We have a big case, huh? Sure. You all know James Gunn, who is currently one of the heads of the Detective Comics universe in film, along with Peter Safran. But do you remember his controversial tweets? In 2018, it was such a big issue, they even fired him for a while.
Nowadays, things have improved for him, so much so that he has been a very strong part of the marketing for several Warner productions. But the stigma from those tweets hasn't completely gone away, since many sites often bring up this controversy to discredit James Gunn and the universe he's creating, accusing him of being an actual pedophile.
Wait. Are you really sure we can say the P word? My brain can't allow this video to get demonetized. I'm eating my cereal with boiled water. It's not even from the water jug.
You're right. Okay. No, don't cry, please. It's okay. But anyway, what did those tweets say and how real are those accusations?
We'll discuss this in the video because Detective Gobi and Actually, I did almost everything myself. We thoroughly investigated all the files and reliable sources of information related to this James Gunn controversy, and wow, we discovered some very shady things about the whole situation.
So join us as we get to the bottom of this case, which I call What's Up with James Gunn.
Young poster now. Young poster now. Why did I have to record my parts?
The singer was more expensive for me. A little warning before we start with this case. Don't jump to conclusions too quickly. This case has too many twists and turns, so please wait until the end of the video to draw your own conclusions.
Let's investigate then, with an open mind and without favoritism.
Let's get started. The controversy against James Gunn erupted in July 2018 when the director was already very well known for having turned the Guardians of the Galaxy, a group of little-known comic book superheroes, into a multi-million-dollar franchise. But interestingly, the whole controversy started with someone who isn't James Gunn, but with another director named Mark Duplass, who, in July 2018, asked his liberal Twitter followers to please consider, as he called it, going to the other side of the aisle and following Ben Shapiro.
If you don't know Ben Shapiro, then I envy you. Yes, he's a content creator and conservative commentator who you probably remember for speaking badly about the Barbie movie for 43 minutes straight.
Mark's followers, mostly liberals, obviously because of his political leaning, didn't take it well. And besides mentioning several racist comments that Ben Shapiro had made in the past, they started attacking Mark for having recommended his account. And this is when, oh surprise, like a knight in shining armor, James Gunn comes to the aid of his fellow director. And at the same time, he took the opportunity to complain about Ben Shapiro. James Gunn tweeted the following: "Maybe you disagree with Mark Duplass, which is completely fair. Personally, I think even Ben Shapiro's mom should stop following him, but that doesn't make Duplass's point of view evil. There are a lot of traitors and racists in the country these days. Maybe it would be better to save our anger for them."
The situation heated up. James Gunn started arguing with conservatives, called Ben Shapiro an idiot, and in the end accused the president at the time, Donald Trump, of being incompetent. And what about his ties to Russia?
That's something that is documented, but that's not the point. The point is that this action made James Gunn the target of a very dangerous group of right-wing trolls. Something that would change his life forever. Hey, what happened to the prints and the corkboard?
Remember that the printer ran out of magenta ink?
But we print everything in black and white.
I know, but that's how it is. Also, don't speak badly about the printer. It can supposedly sense fear. But don't worry because I saved a bit from my low salary and took a course so we can use this. A blanket? Oh no, obviously it's a green screen.
No, it is a blanket. There's a tiger back here.
Okay. It's a blanket that I painted green, but let's give it a chance.
Alright. Here we have to talk about the two people who at that moment changed James Gunn's life forever. I'm referring to Mike Cernovich and Jack Posovich, two supporters of Donald Trump who, after James Gunn criticized his administration, started digging through his posts from 10 years ago. and they discovered some horrible and tasteless tweets where James Gunn was basically making fun of all the topics that are considered taboo. There was one against people with acquired immunodeficiency syndrome 1 where he made fun of a femicide, and another with an unpleasant comment against an overweight person. Of course, there was also mockery about September 11th topics, and there were several others where he joked about issues related to rape and child abuse.
These tweets, which Kurnovich and Posovich discovered first, were picked up by right-wing news sites like Daily Caller, then Fox News, and after that, everything went downhill.
Monetization, we just mentioned something about September 11th, we can't say that something went downhill.
Yes, don't worry. From there, the situation exploded. And since people kept digging into Gunn's past, it came to light again. An old controversy from 2012 over a blog post he wrote titled "The 50 Superiors You'd Most Want to Have Sex With," where he said that Iron Man could probably turn Batwoman straight again after having sex with her. He claimed Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain would be easy since one is a teen and the other has daddy issues, and called Gambit an effeminate Cajun. How much?
How old was James Gunn when he posted that?
46 years old, the creature?
Oh my god, 46, and still talking about teenagers. Oh yeah, you can't even blame it on his age? After that, the then Chief Executive Officer of Disney, Alan Horn, released a public statement where they parted ways with the director, saying that the offensive attitudes and statements uncovered from James Gunn are indefensible, leaving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 without a director at that time. And let's remember that according to United States law, companies have the right to fire you if they feel that your comments or opinions, even if you make them on your personal social media, are negatively affecting the company. But it really depends a lot on each case, since companies have to evaluate how serious the controversy is, how much it's affecting them financially, and how much they need the controversial talent in question. For example, Gina Carano was fired from The Mandalorian for saying that being a Republican in the United States today was comparable to being Jewish during World War II. When Letitia Wright, the actress who played Shuri, shared anti-vaccine info during the pandemic, they only scolded her and told her not to discuss it again. Meanwhile, Paramount cancelled Stephen Colbert's show for criticizing Trump, and Jimmy Kimmel almost faced the same fate. But the media pressure was so strong in this case that Disney was forced not to cancel the show. The point is that if companies hire or fire someone, it's not for moral reasons, but rather they're measuring what benefits them more economically.
Look at J.K. Rowling. Despite many controversies, she's still around because Warren wants to milk Harry Potter for all it's worth. In the case of James Gunn, it certainly helped that members of the Guardians of the Galaxy cast like Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, and Dave Bautista released a statement in his favor, which said they were in shock over his abrupt firing last week, and we intentionally wanted to wait these 10 days so we could think, pray, listen, and discuss. We've been encouraged by strong fan and media support for James's reinstatement as director of the volume. We've also been discouraged by all those who have been so easily misled into believing many of those absurd conspiracy theories surrounding him.
Wait a minute, conspiracy theories? You said yes.
And we really have to pay close attention to the facts so far.
Let's go back a bit to look at this in detail. If you notice, Tigre does.
The blanket is upside down.
Yes, like I was saying, if you notice, the only thing that James Gunn was found guilty of, at least up to this point, was having terrible taste in his jokes in 2018. And yes, these jokes are in very bad taste. And yes, we could clearly see that this kind of politically incorrect humor and edgy is reflected in some of the director's works, like in James Gunn, parental guidance porn, parody porn sketches that he filmed with some actresses from the industry.
Actresses from that industry, basically without clothes.
The short film Surgeon Kabuki, a parody of an infomercial where he talked to teenagers about the dangers of masturbation. We can even see his humor slip in a bit in movies like Slither, where some aliens, in a pretty phallic way, get into people's bodies through their mouths. Something that at the time he probably found hilarious, but in the end, there was no crime, there were no accusations of grooming, and there were no reports of any kind of criminal behavior on his part. He also didn't appear thousands of times in those famous files.
Even so, the narrative that started to spread was that he was
TT, they're going to demonetize us, TT. To demonetize.
So does that mean James Gunn was a PDF file?
How did the narrative shift from tasteless jokes to directly accusing him of PPP? Is this related to the two pro-Trump conservatives who first targeted James Gunn? The first of them is Mike Cernovich, a man who, according to a New York Times investigation, lives by the motto, conflict is attention and attention is influence. Not only that, but Mike himself also told the New Yorker magazine, "I'm not a troll, I use trolling tactics, I read to build my brand." Why would major media outlets investigate a random guy online? Because it turns out he was very involved in spreading large-scale fake news about Hillary Clinton during her 2016 presidential campaign. Hey, before you say anything, we don't support the Clintons on this channel. We actually think they're pretty shady. We're in favor of them being thoroughly investigated, them and all those people who probably went to the island. Oh, sorry, I already showed that photo, but in this case, Mike Cernovich attacked Hillary Clinton over something that wasn't real.
When there are so many real things you could criticize her for.
He started spreading massive rumors on the internet about her health, mentioning that she took very long naps or had peculiar travel habits. Something that ended up becoming a trend and ended up affecting the elections through the hashtag. In fact, Cernovich himself directly talked about this with the New Yorker magazine. In his words, he was monitoring the online conversation about Hillary. What was resonating with people and what wasn't? Nothing was working. I thought that the health issue would be more visceral, more resonant from a persuasion standpoint, so I went with that. This article also mentions that Mike has a whole history of accusing people of being piss, especially when they don't agree with him. Meanwhile, the other guy, Jack Posobiec, was named the king of fake news in 2017 by Philadelphia magazine.
I mean, not prince, not duke, not lord, king of fake news.
Yes, exactly this, because he has also been linked to these acts where he spreads and uses fake news as political weapons. In fact, a BuzzFeed news article discovered that Posobiec planted and photographed a sign that mentioned Melania, Trump's wife, at an anti-Trump protest with the intention of discrediting the movement. In addition, both have been involved in their own controversies. Cernovich on one hand denied that rape within a couple could be real, something he called liberal fiction. And Posobiec on the other hand has been linked to neo-Nazi websites and groups.
Fans of the Mustache Man? That's funny, James Gunn didn't know it at the time, but he got involved with very dangerous people who already had a lot of experience smearing public figures, on such a large scale that several major United States media outlets already noticed them. Unfortunately, in this case, for Mike and Jack, it was very easy to push this narrative about Gunn, considering the tweets, the humor, and then the photos they dug up.
Because it turns out that a couple of weeks after the tweets went viral, some photos surfaced from a costume party organized by James Gunn himself with the show's theme. To Catch a Predator, a reality television show where they set up hidden cameras to catch people. Preds. I mean, it wasn't really a theme party about Preds, but rather about a show where they caught Preds. Although yes, it does look weird and it's really tasteless humor if you ask me, which is why we see Gunn and his guests dressed up like this. If you add the tweets to these photos and two people who are very skilled at manipulating information, the result is a huge, really huge controversy. Hey, I'm not really into that gray screen thing.
Green?
Green screen. I need the photos in hand and the corkboard.
That's all we have unless we get more money.
So if you're enjoying this investigation, which isn't easy to do,
I have to spend hours researching. In Equus, do you know what that does to a person? I mean, tell me what it's like to be in Equus for hours.
Like I said, if you're enjoying this investigation, please help us by subscribing to the channel. It's free and that way you help us buy Magenta Ink. But anyway, what did James Gunn say about this whole situation? After all this controversy, James Gunn released the following statement. People who have followed my career know that when I started, I saw myself as a provocateur, making movies and telling jokes that were outrageous and taboo. As I've said many times, I've grown as a person and so has my work and my sense of humor. I'm not saying I'm better, just that I'm very different from the person I was a few years ago. My days of saying something just because it sounds shocking to get a reaction from people are over.
Overall, the situation eased somewhat, as just 3 months after his controversy and firing, Warner Brothers made an announcement. Had hired him to write and possibly direct the Suicide Squad movie, which is something that actually happened. So it's like Warner told Disney, look, if you don't want him, I'll take him. A few months later, Disney announced they'd spoken with James Gunn and he would return to finish the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy with Volume 3.
Unfortunately, not everyone let the situation go that easily. When Henry Cavill was fired from the role of Superman, and James Gunn and Peter Safran were hired to shape what would become the DC Universe, something that happened around the same time. Many of the most radical fans of the so-called Snyderverse began to attack James Gunn using the same narrative that had been created about him a few years earlier. That's why we often find this kind of image on the internet suggesting that James Gunn is a lover of PDF files. And that's not the only kind of rumor there has been about him, since many people also mention that his ex-wife, the actress Jenna Fisher, whom you probably know as Pam from The Office, hates him. And they point to this behind-the-scenes recording from the movie Lolly Love, which she directed, as proof. Where James was very insistent on wanting to include a joke about anal sex and then apparently makes a joke about his daughter. I'll show you the clip and you tell me what you think. Please don't mention any disgust, since my parents wouldn't like that. Why don't they like it? Do you? Look how funny it is when...
It should be broken.
By me. I should clarify that in this movie I had to play a really nasty guy, with a dumb sense of humor, really stupid. But it's also true that this dialogue happened between takes.
That confirms the theory that James Gunn in 2012 had a really foolish kind of love.
But again, that's not the crime he's being accused of.
He and Jenna still get along well, and there are photos of them with their new partners celebrating the holidays together.
So what can we learn from all this?
That for the green screen to work, you shouldn't put it on the tiger's side?
No, I mean from the case of James Gunn.
Yeah, hey, but when you're done, can you give it back to me? My blanket is the only one I have and it gets cold at night.
Yes, of course. I hope people actually subscribe. The point is that if we look at the evidence, we can realize that all this controversy against James Gunn started as a political attack carried out by two people who have a documented history, according to several media outlets, of knowing how to use lies to create defamatory narratives around them. But the truth is that James Gunn made it very easy for them. It's true that James Gunn didn't commit any crime, but it's also true that seeing all this information can change the perception you have about him, about his work. Should we stop consuming his content? I think that depends on each person. What is true is that talking openly about these topics, with all their nuances, is a conversation that needs to happen. Since by understanding the topic in depth, each of us can have a better idea of where all the controversy comes from and who were the people involved. And above all, will we be able to separate the fictional narrative from the actions that were real, so we can form and shape a much more accurate opinion? I am Detective Geo, the Geek Monitor.
I am the young man with gel concerned. For today,
the case is closed.